Just your assessment of what we saw in her today.
Well, we found out that the shooter went to school at Robb, and his classroom was 111.
Right.
And the teacher, one of the teachers who testified, was his teacher, but implying that he was familiar with that
and that
room,
he was coming to that classroom.
And he was coming to that classroom. He knew exactly where to go in the building, and he knew he was going to 111. And then, of course, we had the training expert who testified that Adrian Gonzales had a duty to run towards that danger as soon as he heard those gunshots, which corresponds with the theory of the state's case. So we'll see what the jury thinks about that. We may not see what the jury thinks about that, but at any rate, that's what they heard today.
And then you had the defense draw them out a little further on that and make it clear that that duty is not, go be a kamikaze, right?
That's what he said on cross-examination. And he also said on cross-examination that the points that he was making that an officer should do, run towards it, to stop the killing, etc. That's his training program. It's not necessarily what every trainer believes. They may have a different perspective. They may have a different method of training than this gentleman does. But the bottom line is that this is what the state has been saying, is that he should have run after him, and that had he might have stopped him, but that he didn't run immediately after him. But this witness verifies that he should have, even though he didn't say specifically Adrian Gonzales didn't follow his training. And he was Adrian Gonzales' trainer, by the way, for an active shooter training course.
Right, and they showed pictures of him. Of course, they showed pictures of him training with a rifle, airsoft rifle, not and versus a handgun. And that appeared to be more, what the pictures they were showing appeared to be more like, if you were going in and, 2 or 3 people or something like that.
Right.
What was the most important testimony today? For me, I guess it was listening to, obviously the trainer was important, but I also thought Melody Flores, was pretty important because, again, she is the one person who encounters him when he arrives at the school.
Right.
And her testimony feels pretty important to me, and then just the discrepancies within it.
100%. I think that was very powerful to listen to her, number one, just to feel, you could viscerally feel, even today, the energy in that courtroom, what that was like for her, and how they talked about memory and how when you're under stress, how the memory is not 100% reliable. And then they pointed that out because and when she spoke to Rangers, and she had seen some videos, by the way, before she spoke to the Rangers, and so she realized that she realized some facts, right? But when she spoke to the Ranger, she said the car that drove up on her had no markings.
Of course, it did.
That the person who got out of that vehicle had on khakis. He did. Adrian Gonzales did not have on khakis. He had on his uniform.
Had a beard.
And she said he had a full beard. So it's not.
Which he did not.
Right. And so they were able to point out the discrepancies. And one of the things, though, that I think that is so important is that she's brave. She's super brave.
Right.
She ran out because she knew she's a special ed teacher, right? Isn't that, do I have that right? Or am I confusing with someone?
I can't remember if she's special ed, she might be an aide, but
yeah, she's an aide. So she runs out to see
to make sure there's not kids on the playground.
Exactly. And so she's brave. She runs out and to take care of the kids. And she sees kids getting ready to come out of that south door and stops them and says, go back in, don't come out. But in her mind, then she fell down, and
I think she's shot.
And she thinks she's shot, but she's not shot, and they didn't find any casings there to indicate that he shot in her direction, but she thought she was shot. And so she got up and ran back inside, but she encountered, they said she encountered Adrian, but Adrian just paced back and forth. She told him where the shooter was, but that she thought that the shooter had gone in that south building. And she was going to go to the south building door to make sure it was locked, but she couldn't because she saw the shooter.
Right, but he actually goes in the west door. So again,
And he went into the other, yeah.
and again, I think part of it is, memory's a funny thing, and that was the interesting thing about the trauma council they put on, which kind of maybe had an unintended benefit for the defense, because it kind of got into this issues of memory and how memories can be different. But while I don't think it goes to Adrian Gonzales' guilt or innocence, it is hard listening to the parents and these teachers describe, when you hear a father talk about how he sent his son to school one way.
Yes.
He sent one child to school, and a different child came home. And that, that's still where the rubber meets the road. That doesn't. That's the difficult part. Is no matter how this trial turns out, you have families, lives that have just been altered forever.
Yeah, it's irrelevant to a guilt or acquittal. It is their life is changed forever because a madman decided he was going to slaughter everybody he came in contact with.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear, I think, based on just the last hearing that we had outside the presence of the jury, that we are going to get body cams tomorrow.
We are.
Those are coming in.
We've been sitting here going, where are the body cams? Well, I think they're coming in tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, thank you so much for joining us. And actually, Terry's going to be back in late afternoon. I have a different legal guest in the morning, and we're just, I want to really thank all the attorneys who come on here. Y'all, nobody's paid. Y'all just come on here and you spend your time and you really help walk our viewers through what's happening, giving them a bird's eye view from a legal perspective, and I think it's really important, and thank you so much.
I'm so glad to be here, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, thank you for watching our gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Uvalde School Shooting Trial for Officer Adrian Gonzales. Now, if you missed any of the testimony or analysis throughout the proceedings, you can go back and get caught up on our YouTube channel, or you can do that right here on our Plus app. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Our coverage starts at 8:30 a.m. See you then.